Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Looking for Love in All the Wrong Dust Jackets, a show where three disgruntled harpies talk to you about everything we love in romance, whether that's books, movies, TV shows, whatever we like. My name's Liz.
I'm Danny.
I'm Wiggles.
And welcome to the episode. Today we're talking to you about Bridgerton Season 3, Part 1. So just the 4 episodes that were released in May. But before we get into that, I have to warn you. I have to tell you that we are crass and unhinged, and we're going to swear. We're going to talk about naughty times. It's going to be a fun time, but if you're not into it, I understand.
We're going to talk about carriage rides.
Oh, so many carriage rides.
We're going to talk about longing glances. And we're going to talk about dirty dances. You're welcome.
Anyway, before we talk about Bridgerton, though, tell me what you guys have been up to. Get me caught up.
Well, I actually found out that all 3 of the Bridgerton Brothers books are currently free on Audible right now. So I actually listened to Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, not The Bridgerton, although I enjoyed that title better. So Julia Quinn considered the change. And then I also spent a good amount of time spacing out and pretending I didn't exist in the world. And while I did that, I listened to the devastating book, The Kite Runner.
Oh.
It was a bummer. So check it out.
So I did a weird nostalgia weekend, and I watched like 17 episodes of Green Acres.
I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
It's an old
Is that
television
the one where the theme is like Green
Acres is the place to be.
Okay.
All right.
Farm living is a play for me. So it's a couple of city people. He is obsessed with farming. He wants to be a farmer, so they move from a penthouse in Upper East Side Manhattan to a farm in the middle of nowhere. The town is called Hootersville.
What a foolish thing to do.
People make choices, man.
Yeah. But it's funny. It's an old show, and I was just feeling it. So, and then I also have been reading, I haven't finished it quite yet, Date with a Demon by Maggie Mayhem.
I listened to the audiobook for Carrie Soto is Back by Taylor Jenkins Reid, which is not a romance, so there is a romance subplot. It's more of a woman's sports book. It's very good. I can't decide if it's like a 4.5 or a 5. It's very good. And I think the thing that I love the most about it is you never know what the outcome is going to be. I mean, I'm sure some people could predict it, but a lot of times in sports books and movies, it's like, oh yeah, the lead team or person or whatever is going to triumph in the end. And this one, you never really know. And I'm not spoiling it by saying you never know. Because literally it's a 50-50, right? She either does it or doesn't. It's tennis. There's 2 options. But the story is really more about her growth as like a person and stuff, and also explores both sexism and ageism in sports and sports media.
I really thought you said sports BDSM for a second, not sports media.
I clocked that as well.
Sports BDSM is a different book.
It is indeed.
That's where the racket get used differently.
Oh,
you know?
Oh my.
I don't like that.
What if it was badminton racket?
Maybe.
I'm feeling so unsanitary about that.
Wow.
I think there's different versions of what people are envisioning happens with the racket in this room, and I think we should just move past before we explain.
Okay.
Yep.
But I could. All right, so we're not going to do an author rundown because, why? And we're not going to tell you what this show is about because we're going to talk about it. And we're only doing 4 episodes. And so, no. But I will give you a recap in case you haven't watched any of this. If you've been living under a rock and you've never heard of the crazy thing called Bridgerton, I can get you caught up. Basically, first season, Simon and Daphne, they're trying not to be in love with each other while pretending to be in love with each other, but they really are in love with each other. And then, Simon does a stupid. and Daphne does the stupid, and they go and make out in the garden. And while they're in said garden, they're seen. And so then her brother's like, whoa, we got a duel, my guy. And she gets in the way of it and says, no, ma'am. We're not doing that today. And so then she's like, or you could marry me. You could just not be a dumbass and you could just marry me. And he's like, fine, but I can't have children. But it secretly turns out he can have children and he's a liar. And then Daphne pulls some shenanigans and that requires a trigger warning. So we're going to skip past that. And then, they fight and go their separate ways and return to the town and are like, hey, we're the Duke and Duchess, I'm special, that's super cool, except that we're dying inside. And then it rains and they're back in love again. And that's season 1. Season 2 you have Daphne's older brother, the one who tried to duel, that dumbass, the one who was fucking an opera singer against a tree in the first season. Now all of a sudden he's ready to marry. And of course he can't settle for just anyone because this is going to be the next Viscountess. And she's like, gotta be able to read maps apparently. That's a super hyper fixation of his. Also needs to be pretty and smart and everything. And so naturally he's like, all y'all are shit. I don't want to marry you. Go away. But then the queen is like, hey, this new girl in town, I'm going to make her my diamond. So that brings Eloise and Kate into hyper attention mode. Except that Kate, no one's paying attention to because she is an old lady at 26 years old. Spinster. So he starts pursuing Eloise and...
No, he does not pursue Eloise, who is his sister.
Edwina.
I fucking hate these names.
I really didn't want to interrupt you because you were just going so strong.
So he pursues Edwina and and meanwhile Kate is like, don't you be talking to my sister. And and he's like, no, I'm gonna be talking to your sister. And then he's like, but you're pretty hot and I don't know why no one else is paying attention to that over there. Did you see her thigh? My God. And then he's like, oh, the party's ending, I guess I better go propose to Edwina. And then she's like, yes, of course I'll marry you because I'm a young impressionable woman who doesn't know anything about the world, and I don't realize that you're full of shit and fully in love with my sister. So they start planning their wedding, and the queen is like, this is going to be my shining glory. I'm going to make this the biggest wedding of all time. And meanwhile, Kate and Anthony are just like, what if I breathe in your general direction? Is that love? I don't know. And so she drops her bracelet accidentally, not accidentally, who's to say, but he bends down to pick it up at the wedding. And so suddenly Edwina's like, whoa, I'm seeing everything now. And she calls off the wedding and there is scandal and drama. And then eventually Kate and Anthony are like, let's just bang it out. Let's just get it done. And, then she falls off a horse and he tries to save her and she's in a coma for way too long. And then when he shows up ready to propose to her, she's like, no, I can't be with you. You don't love me. And then he's like, but I do love you at the last ball of the season. And they live happily ever after. And that brings us up to season 3.
I really wish we'd have gotten that on film because that would have been amazing to put on TikTok.
That was pretty impressive.
It was going strong.
Oh, and Penelope is Lady Whistledown. So there you go.
Yeah. And there's a lot of other subplots and stuff that we'll get into.
Yeah. But that would take in a lot of
yeah, we don't got time for that.
We don't got time for that. So we're talking about Colin and Penelope. It's their season, supposedly.
What do you mean supposedly? I'm pretty sure it is.
Well, they say it is, but I don't feel like they've been given enough attention.
I do agree with that. That
they very much split into a bunch of different subplots very quickly in this season.
It seems like it's equally Penelope and Francesca's season.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And potentially Cressida's?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although, okay, so like I said, I did read the book, which is odd because normally I've gotten in the habit of watching the show and then reading the book. So doing it in the middle is weird. It's exciting. I kind of know what's going to happen, but I don't know what's going to happen. But Cressida does play a big part in the book, but not a good part. Not this version of Cressida where she's
maybe having a slight redemption.
Yeah, no redemption arc for Cressida. There are multiple times where Colin, Mr. I Like Everybody, in the book is there's nothing redeemable about that woman.
Oh.
Yeah.
Like, 'cause he's negative about her because he assumes, and I'm not even upset that he assumed that she's the one who told everybody that he was helping Penelope, because, spoiler alerts, he was helping Penelope try to find a husband, not doing so very well because he wants her, but told Eloise, and he assumed, and so did Eloise, that Cressida told everybody, and she didn't.
No.
As far as we know, there could be a twist in the second half of the season where she did. But Cressida was right when Eloise was just in the middle of the ball being like, my brother and my ex-best friend are doing this thing. Oh. She's like, what are you doing? Just telling everybody.
100%.
Yeah, I was like, oh my God, you're so in view of it. One, don't tell Cressida, because it's not your secret to tell. And I understand you're friends with her, but she's kind of been a cunt waffle up until this point. Yeah. But two, you're in the middle of a fucking ballroom full of very catty and gossipy women.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and even if you assume that you've developed a close enough relationship with Cressida that you feel you can trust her, you have to be conscious of the world that you're around. And that is a classic Eloise flaw.
Yep.
Where she just wants to live in this world of her own making.
Yeah.
And anybody who fails to cross whatever bar she deems the moral standard of the time is less than.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I know, Danny, you've always said that Eloise is kind of like one of your favorite characters.
Not in this season.
Right. Well, that's fair. But literally what you just described there, Wiggs, is one of the reasons that she wasn't one of my favorite characters is because she has really great ideals of like, why does society have to be like this? Mm-hmm. But she is just oblivious to any version of reality to the point where it's harmful to herself and other people.
Yes. Well, I don't want to dwell too much on her behavior in season 2, but like the reality is, I don't think Penelope or Eloise was right in that fight. I think they both did wrong to each other.
Yeah.
Oh,
and
I agree.
Had justification for like the fight, but Eloise firmly believes she did nothing wrong.
Yeah.
Versus Penelope understands that she did something less wrong to make something right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so the way that Eloise treats Penelope, it just tells me that she's, for all of her I'm a grown-up bluster, she very much acts like a child.
Eloise does, yeah.
Well, and also it shows the extent of a little bit, and I'm not blaming their parents, but I am blaming their parents a little bit, is how baby the Bridgertons are in the world, especially the girls, because Eloise doesn't have any concept of this. Penelope, while she has been sheltered to a degree, as all of the women in the town are, she also has been brought up in a pretty abusive family to her mentally.
Yeah.
And just in a more realistic world around her, because she is treated very differently than a lot of the women of the town. Guys insult her to her face.
Yes.
Yeah, it's terrible. I think that's why I liked Francesca so much when she is now arrived on the scene. Because of the Bridgertons, she's just like, listen, this is reality. I gotta marry a guy. As long as he's okay, it's okay.
I also feel like Violet... Well, one, I feel like she's scared because of what happened with Eloise last year. Two, she also does not know what to do with Francesca because all of her children are very loud and opinionated, and Francesca is not.
Yeah.
Well, here's my hot take. If you disagree, that's fine. I'm not like trying to shit on you or anything. But I don't think that Violet Bridgerton is that much better of a mother than Lady Featherington. I really don't. Like, they are bad parents in different ways, certainly, but I think that Violet gets put upon a pedestal just the same way her entire family does. Like, her parenting is elevated by the status that she has. Like, of course she must be a good parent because she has these beautiful kids, right? And it's like, you just really miss everything that's going on in your daughter's lives, and that's weird. And then she's like, oh, I catch everything that's happening with my boys, and it's like, ma'am, that's kind of gross. Like, I literally had a moment when I was watching it. I was like, if she lived today, she would have a bumper sticker that said boy mom, even though she also has 4 daughters.
Yeah, she does have a bit of a boy mom vibe, doesn't she?
Especially because, like, when she's talking to Colin about what makes a good marriage and everything, she's like, she's not saying it, but she is screaming at him with her eyes as she stares at Penelope.
Right.
I'm like, you are doing everything but pointing and saying, fucking marry her.
Right. Meanwhile, she doesn't pick up on the fact that Francesca, who doesn't exude boisterousness fucking ever, runs to meet her guy.
Yeah.
And then is clearly crushed when she thinks that the reason he ran off is because he didn't want to talk to her anymore.
Yep.
And she's like, are you upset? I don't know. Do you think she's upset, Violet? What the fuck?
By the way, when they were like, she was like, I just need some quiet. And he's like, can we stand here and enjoy the quiet together? My heart went pitter patter. I'm like, oh, she found a quiet man who likes music.
Yeah, Lord Kilman? Kill something.
Let me look him up.
I know his name is John Sterling, but I don't remember what his title name is. And it's important that his name is John Sterling. You only hear it once, but it's important.
I know. Like, it's interesting to me that they're really downplaying his, I don't know how I want to say this, his existence almost a little bit.
I wonder if it's because I haven't read Francesca's book, but I wonder if it's because he doesn't kill Martin. I wonder if it's because he doesn't really play much into her book, so everything they're doing is like
they're freeballing it,
and also setting it up because you don't want us to fall in love with the guy that's not the guy.
Too late.
Yeah,
they did. Yeah. They did enough,
but you also have to fall in love with him enough.
Yeah.
And I guess that's a spoiler, and I'm really sorry, but like you could just read the description of Francesca's book, and you would not see his name. So there's that.
By the way, can we talk about how stunning Francesca is?
Oh yeah, she's lovely.
I mean, all of them are gorgeous, but every time she came on screen, I was like, oh, Francesca.
Yeah, that's why, like you said, this is technically Colin and Penelope's season, but Francesca's playing a real big part.
The other thing about Francesca is that I think the reason we're seeing so much more of her isn't just that they are setting up her season. Because they went out of order, this all should have happened during Benedict's book, this like setup of their marriage. And so... Yeah, because in Romancing Mr. Bridgerton, Colin makes a very brief reference to the fact that he visits his sister in Scotland. So by that point, she's already married and is off with him in Scotland. So there's that part of it. But also, Eloise isn't supposed to take this detour of friendship. She's not supposed to find out that Penelope is Lady Bridgerton as early as she does.
Lady Whistledown.
That too.
Yeah, that happens quite a bit later in the series.
That happens in this book, technically.
Oh.
Because they all do. They all find out. Spoilers.
Okay.
So. Because Colin doesn't take it well, I doubt.
No. And I don't think he will. Second half of this season. I don't think that's gonna.
From what they're like next time on Bridgerton.
Yeah.
Like I was like, oh, he's not gonna take that well.
Well, he's already said in the first season that they're gonna figure out who Lady Whistledown is and like basically dance on her grave. I don't know if he says that, but it's very close to that concept.
Yes. He said it, and I was like, oh no, Penelope.
Yes. And the thing is, she's not that we know of in the books as vicious to him personally and the people around him personally in the books. Like the whole Mariana thing doesn't happen.
No.
Right? The Eloise thing doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Those are two big things for him to be justifiably angry about.
Yeah, I'm really concerned in the second half of the show how they're going to get Colin to be okay with her being Lady Whistledown. She either has to do something that somehow counteracts it, either as Penelope, like him and Penelope together, or write something as Lady Whistledown that like counteracts his opinion of her. But yeah.
Well, there's a lot of things that I like about the divergence from the books. The vast majority of the changes that they've made to the books, I'm a fan of.
Yeah.
That said, one thing I did not like about this version of Colin is this swarmy, charming guy. And I was like, ugh. Literally every time he spoke, I was like, no, stop. Yeah. I don't remember what the line was, but there was one where he was chatting up the ladies, where they had that montage of him chatting them up. And there was one in there where I literally went, ugh!
I think you're supposed to. I
Yeah.
think you're supposed to see that he's putting on this like big facade, A, so that it makes sense that he would be able to teach Penelope how to do kind of the same thing. And then B, for him to get really exhausted by it so quickly.
Yeah.
Well, and Violet points out that it's completely an act. He takes on too much of other people, and so at this point he's just trying to not be that person anymore, and it's not working because he's terrible at it.
He's trying to essentially be what he's supposed to be. Right? Like he's supposed to be this big like charmer who all the ladies come, and like that's what Anthony was. That's kind of what Benedict is, but Benedict is also just like, I do what I want.
Carefree artist.
Benedict's like, I'm not here to please anybody, but I will please you. Wink. No, I think the thing that I hated about it though was I didn't understand how people were falling for it.
Do you mean people like in real life falling for it, or people in the show falling for it? I understand people in the show.
I don't understand people in the show falling for it.
Well, that was the time.
I mean, I guess, but like somewhat, I understand. I'm looking at it from a modern lens, right? But like someone even attempts to flirt with me like that, I'm immediately knowing that situation. Like just, ooh, no, that's gross. You need to step away from me. And maybe in that way, Eloise and I do have something in common.
We also may need to look at it from the lens of how many people in the town actually know what Colin really is like.
Sure, but then when he shows up and starts acting like that, wouldn't you be like,
no, but that's weird. What I'm saying is all the young ladies in the town really don't know him.
Sure.
And so I think that's why they're falling for it, is because they just like, oh, Colin Bridgerton, you know, he's suave like all his brothers. And
well, if you also look at just like all of the flirting, so not just Colin, but like all of the interactions that are like Cressida with Lord Debling.
That was also cringe.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Like they're all like that because that's just how they talked. Couldn't be a real person back then. You had to like fake it till you make it.
The secondhand embarrassment I got from Penelope, I'm like, oh, stop it now.
That was hard to watch.
It would hurt my soul.
Yeah, poor Penelope.
Yeah.
That would be me if somebody was like, go talk to that man. Be like, hello. Hi. I'm Penelope. It'd be so bad.
I will say it's one of the cuter moments, though. So she goes over and she talks to this guy that Colin tells her to talk to. And then he starts crying and walks away. And he goes over and he's like, what the hell? She's like, apparently he just lost his favorite horse. And they have this cute little just like laughing interaction. And it was really sweet. I really liked that moment.
Yeah, I wish they would have had more moments like that. I'm sure they're trying to rely on the previous seasons where Penelope and Colin had moments and built up a friendship. But I feel like they were doing it too much and not giving us enough of those moments in this season.
Yes, I agree wholeheartedly. The one thing I will say to that is they are going off script with almost every interaction. There's a few, like the carriage, a lot of that was very similar. But like, they don't, Colin, as fast as the 4 episodes felt, that is the pace that it feels like the first half of the book. Oh. Like it just, decisions are made and then we run with it. And so I think that they needed to diverge a little more from the book, if I'm being completely honest, which may be a hot take. I know there are people who love it, but I just was like, I just wanted more banter. I wanted more moments that re-solidified them as friends.
Yeah.
More camaraderie. Like, we got one quote-unquote lesson.
Yeah, the fact that they set up this whole thing about doing these lessons and then it didn't really ever happen.
Right.
Was a little weird to me.
Like, we got the test interaction where she bumbles in front of these 4 guys.
Right.
And then
they're in the market and he's like telling her, no, you already know what to do.
And she's like, I assure you I don't.
Right.
I was like, I've never felt such a camaraderie in that moment. I was like, I'm with you, Penelope.
I will say, I do really like what he said though about he's like, and you know why that? Because she teased him mercilessly because apparently when they were kids, like her hat flew into his face and it knocked him off his horse, and she just gave him endless shit about it. Mm-hmm. And he goes, and you know why that is? Because we were children, and at that point we hadn't learned that we have to care about what other people think. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I appreciate you for that moment, Colin.
Yeah, it was a good moment, but it just needed more, especially because we've already had a version of this with the very first season. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to do it again, and I understand they don't want to like do it again.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't want to actually have as many moments maybe as Daphne and Simon, but you need to give me something.
Well, and here's my frustration along those same lines. Even as you were saying that, I'm like, but we got so much more of Daphne and Simon, you know? Like, even as they were introducing us to characters that we've never met before, they were giving us so much more of the core characters.
Maybe that's the whole point, that they're not spending as much time on them in the first half and setting up things like Eloise and Cressida's friendship, which also, if this was a different show, I would be like, you two doing something?
Same, girl, same.
Because there were eyes. There were moments.
There are that's a lot of the chatter I'm hearing on the internet where they're like, this went a different way. But apparently they're committed to pairing them up with their original pairings.
So she needs to go with Sir Philip.
Yeah. With love.
With love. But not until she's a little bit older, because Sir Philip needs to lose his first wife and have children, and it's a whole thing.
I was gonna say, isn't Sir Philip married to Marina?
Yep.
So don't get attached to her.
I think they need to bring her back. Marina has to be. Like, if she's not in the second half in some capacity for no other reason, whether or not they choose to reveal her as Lady Whistledown or not, I would enjoy both outcomes.
Sure.
If they were like, we're going to prolong that for a couple of seasons, I'd be like, that's still interesting if her and Colin are working together on keeping her secret and things like that.
It helps so much.
Yeah. Or if they reveal it. I think both are really interesting choices. But Marina should be there. There should be a conversation of like, okay, now that we can be honest with each other.
Well, especially because that would be a good way to get Colin to maybe like move past the Lady Whistledown thing, is to have Marina be like, yeah, what she did wasn't great, but what I was going to do to you also wasn't great.
Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
Well, and in some ways they kind of give her that in season 2 when he goes to visit her.
Yeah.
But she doesn't expressly say it because technically she doesn't know that Penelope is Lady Whistledown.
Right.
She just assumes.
Yeah.
Because there's just no other way that Penelope would have had that information.
Right.
And it's certainly not her sisters who are Dumb and Dumber.
We spend a lot of time with I don't remember their names because I just know them as the cruel one.
Prudence and Philippa. There's also technically supposed to be a fourth sister who's younger than Penelope named Felicity.
Oh.
And there's a whole plot where her mom is trying to push Felicity towards Colin. And Felicity's like, ma'am, he's like 10 years older than me. Could we not? She's like, I'm going to go paint with my watercolors. Oh. Please go away.
Before we completely depart from the Lady Whistledown thing, I almost wonder if they are going to completely reveal it, because the Queen has started noticing Penelope.
She started noticing Penelope, and she's also, I don't think, super long for this world.
Oh, yeah. Queen Charlotte is probably getting close to...
Yeah. I don't know if she passes... Like, she's not a character in the original Bridgerton universe in the books. So I don't know if timeline-wise she does, but I know, like, where she's at timeline-wise based on history, she doesn't have a ton of time left.
Yeah.
So.
That is true. That will rip my heart out, just saying.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I did have one thing about Queen Charlotte, since we're talking about her, and it's honestly how easily Lady Danbury manipulates her.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Is like the time when she brought Queen Charlotte to go hear Francesca play the piano, I was just like, this isn't even thinly veiled anymore, or it is thinly veiled. Mm-hmm. This whole thing you're doing, and the Queen is just, oh yeah, I'll do what you want, Lady Danbury.
I think that's because she's one of, like, the 5 people she trusts.
Yeah.
I guess, but, like...
I think she and maybe this is me giving Charlotte too much credit, but I think she knew what she was doing anyway. Oh, yeah. It was just like, sure.
Yeah.
If she did the thing we know about Queen Charlotte, she would have said something, though. And as far as we've seen on screen, she hasn't given Lady Danbury shit for it at all yet.
It's true. But I wonder if that's not her not realizing it, and more of... She doesn't look as well as she used to. She's slower. Like, there's the whole thing about her basically having gas in the fucking, I don't know what you call it, when they parade out the ladies for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
Stepping into society or whatever.
Yeah, the introduction into society.
Yeah. Like, she just doesn't, she doesn't have that zing in her eye of like, I'm ready to just hit you with an insult you'll never recover from, and I can do whatever I want because I'm fucking queen. If her predecessor, as we see in Queen Charlotte, is coming, She doesn't have a lot of time. So I don't think she's super well.
Sure.
That's how I was reading it the whole time, as they're preparing us for her to not be super healthy. Bummer.
I guess it would make sense because you're right. She's not as scathing as she has been. And she's very heavily leaning on Lady Danbury
And
from like a best
she's
friend.
got a much more accepting of Brimsley's presence thing going on.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
She just is chatting with him.
Mm-hmm.
The chats with him, I'm like, oh, Brimsley.
I was like, Brimsley. Did you see his hat? He had one scene where he had this very special, like, fully mohawked hat. I don't know what you call those things, but like, it was huge. It was huge. It was like Queen Charlotte's wig's huge.
Oh, jeez.
And I was like, my man's got a hat. Look at him go.
See, I guess I was interpreting the extra scenes with Brimley as more of just a nod to the audience, being like, you watched Queen Charlotte. Remember this relationship? How about a little taste? A little tasty taste?
I could take more tastes.
Yeah, always.
Yeah.
Fucking love Brimsley. I love the moment when she's like, take one more step back. You shouldn't be able to read this close.
Right? That's kind of what I'm talking about. Like, normally she would have been like, excuse me? And instead she's like, it's almost a conciliatory, like, don't do that. But also, it's fine.
Yeah.
You can read that far away? Yes.
With practice.
With practice. Take one more step back.
And he basically doesn't.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, baby step.
He knows his duty.
Yeah.
He's supposed to be 4 steps behind her at all times.
At all times.
I will never get over how emotionally devastated I was watching Queen Charlotte when he just like stands 4 steps behind her and reaches for her when she's upset. I was like, oh my god.
Change it a little bit, but since we're really on this like talking about secondary characters thing,
Mm-hmm.
and I know once we really get into Colin and Penelope, that'll be the end of everybody else.
Yeah.
Were y'all as pissed as I was when Kate and Anthony were only in episode 1?
I wasn't.
I completely understood it because there was so much other shit going on, but they teased us so much in the trailers that we'd be getting more Kate and Anthony.
And technically we did.
We
We certainly
got
didn't. We didn't get that with Simon and Daphne.
No.
Although maybe they would have given that to us if the actor was not like, I'm too good for Bridgerton now.
He had to go be in the D&D movie.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, was fantastic, but still.
But, you know, like, they did give us more schmexy time, and I appreciate that. They did give us some very cute moments. The, like, little kiss he gives her while they're dancing. I was like, oh!
Yes. It's very cute.
I laughed hysterically when she's like, you know that what we're doing is not anything that will give us a child.
It's like, well, you have to practice.
I also loved his comment about, like, she said something like, we have something really important to do, and he's like, there are really important things happening down here.
Yes.
It's like, ma'am. Oh my god. I'm never gonna get enough of them.
I know.
They're so cute.
They should come back every season, and we should get at least one episode of them being cute together every season.
I
would think they would need to be, because technically she now is the head of Bridgerton House.
It's true.
Yeah, they can't continue to be on their honeymoon for forever.
It's true. Well, and I think she does have to play a hand in Hyacinth coming out.
Mm-hmm.
I was a little confused why she was there when Francesca debuted, but she wasn't the one that was with her. Because I thought as the new Viscountess, she would have to present Francesca and not Violet.
I think my understanding of that was that she let it slide because it was like Violet really wanted to do it.
Sure.
And I think no one was going to fight her on it. You know?
Yeah.
They have so much chemistry and they're so hot.
You're not wrong.
Like,
You're not wrong.
I want A and B. I want all for me.
Yeah. I love that Anthony is just like, I want to have sex with my wife over here, and then we'll have sex on the desk. Oh, and then we'll have sex over here, which is pretty reminiscent of the book in the second half.
Yeah, it's true.
So
it's true. It's how are we supposed to christen this house?
He spent a whole scene plotting how to get her over the tea set without breaking it.
God, I wish we'd get that scene.
Right?
Maybe there's time. There's still time.
Right? We don't have to be denied. You can put it in the second half. Come on now.
Yeah.
I can
come on
drink
now.
so much tea to make sure it doesn't spill all over the place while I yank her over this table.
Right? Colin can try and go to Anthony and be like, I need your help. My lady. She's Lady Whistledown, send help, please. And Anthony can be like, I'm busy. Get out. We're having tea, brother. He's like, yeah, I'd love some. No, get the fuck out of here.
I'm having tea with my wife.
With my wife.
Go have tea with your wife.
Yeah. Yeah. I hate so much that we were robbed of so many scenes where Anthony treats Penelope like she's another sibling of his.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And like, I know there was one in the second book where he like basically saves her from Crested Cowper by dancing with her.
Yes, he leads her. They're having a dinner at their summer house or whatever, and he like they're about to go into the dining room, and he grabs Penelope's arm and like goes in with her, and it was I love the man. Yes. I love that man.
Yes.
He's like, fuck you. That's one of my little siblings.
Basically, yeah.
Yes. And as it turns out, when Colin's like, I could never court Penelope Featherington, and you're like, shove something hard and pokey up your butt, asshole. He's talking to his brothers in the books, and so like he tries to apologize, and his brothers are both like, you're a fucking idiot. And so then Anthony walks her home. Why were we robbed of that?
Kidding.
Right? Yeah, like,
I'm sad now.
It feels like a character assassination against Anthony Bridgerton, because they're just like, oh, he's an asshole. I'm like, no. That is a sweet man who doesn't know how to handle responsibility. Those are two different things.
Well, we get a little hint of the fact that Penelope is basically like a Bridgerton adjacent. Mm-hmm. When Colin asks her, where have you ever been like comfortable? And she talks about having, was it Sunday tea or Sunday dinner or something at Bridgerton House. Mm-hmm. And we only get these little hints of the fact that Penelope is an extension of their family a little bit. And I wish we would get more, whether it's with Anthony or even Violet.
Yes.
Like I want some Penelope and Violet like scenes, because Violet kind of was there to help raise her in a way. You would think with her being over playing with Eloise all the time.
Yes. And in the books, they have a very positive relationship.
I've heard that. I haven't read the book yet, but I heard that we are a little robbed of some really positiveness in regards to Anthony and to Violet when it comes to Penelope.
There's still time. At the very least for Violet, there's still time.
Yeah.
Yes. She did scream at him with her eyes.
It's true.
It wasn't enough.
It wasn't enough. No. I will say that.
It will never be enough.
But there was definitely a look that I was like, oh, bud, you don't speak woman. But she is screaming at you with her eyes.
Well, the other thing, and this one, when I read the book, I was actually a little bit furious. Is she supposed to have this like close relationship with Lady Danbury? And it plays into the fucking plot. And I'm like, you've literally never had those two talk to each other. Why?
I would love those two to be together.
Right?
Fuck.
I
robbed.
I get why the book fans get upset. I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. I'm furious. And it feels like, it's like, Shonda, come on. You're manufacturing all of these moments. Why not keeping these really great moments? I don't understand. I don't get it.
So I do want to talk about their first kiss, because she basically begs him to kiss her.
I think that is actually hyper realistic, because, those kind of scenes happen in books and TV shows and stuff enough that maybe it doesn't seem realistic, but I think it is extremely realistic to think you're never going to get kissed and go to somebody who is safe and is not going to scandalize you and be like, can we just? And also, hasn't that happened to like a lot of people? Like when you're younger, your first kiss isn't always like, oh, it's this boy that I'm dating.
There's one consequence to them moving Colin and Penelope's story up, but also just not only putting a year between each event, is that it means a lot more when Penelope is 28 than when she would be like, what, 22, 23?
Yeah.
To make that claim, or to officially call herself a spinster at the beginning, the first episode. She can't really make that claim yet, because Crested Cowper came out at the same time as her and is also unmarried. And like, yes, Cressa's got a lot of pressure from her family and all of that, but
she's also got a terrible personality, and that's why she's not getting picked every year.
Right.
Well, and also she's going Just to say, she's going for like the top.
She's going for the unattainable people.
Right. Which doesn't, I'm not saying that Cressida isn't worthy, especially this version of Cressida in this season, of like getting the prince from season 1.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, if Cressida wanted to just marry one of the like fucking trio of guys that Colin hangs out with, she probably could.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's partially true. I think it's somewhat the way she acts, but I honestly don't think most of those guys care. I think the reason that she struggles is because she follows her mom's advice to a T.
Yeah.
Yep.
And her mom isn't always really giving her the best advice, including her fashion choices, much like Penelope. And I don't know if they're intentionally setting up those parallels where it's like Penelope was forced to wear things that were not flattering on her and now doesn't have to and is more desirable, and Cressida is a little bit less. She's still overly extravagant, but I genuinely, some of her looks were really amazing. Like, I thought they were really cool. Like, not all of them, but her hair at least made sense. She's not doing that weird lattice thing in the front.
Yeah.
And some of the looks were really cool. They're completely different from what everybody else is wearing.
I guess I didn't like Cressida's looks. I thought they were a bit gauche, but
I think some more than others. Like the capelet of feathers wasn't my favorite.
Yeah, she walked out in that and I was like, oh.
But some of her, like,
hon.
these, like, huge sleeve dresses, if Lady Gaga wore those, you'd be like, it's giving fashion.
oh, sure, maybe, but I also I hate high fashion most of the time. So that was actually the big sleeve one was one I hated the most. I was like, that's terrible. How do you dance in that? How do you dance?
Well, I think that while her looks are really cool, they're not appropriate for what she's trying to do.
Sure.
Yeah.
And it's weird that her mom is having her wear those things and then her mom just is completely normal. And it's like, yeah, it does make her stand out, but there's a difference between standing out for a good reason and standing out for a bad reason. And so I wonder if they're drawing those parallels to like show that you never really know what's going on in each person's life.
Yeah.
Especially when they give us this unexpected glimpse behind the curtain of her family life with her dad and her mom.
That's a prick.
Her mom's not that much better, but
No.
to be fair, her mom's probably just being put in that position because of her dad.
Her mom very much seems like a product of the system she was raised in.
Yeah.
And fully ready to perpetuate that system.
She really doesn't seem that much different than Portia, Lady Featherington.
No. And again, that it seems like interesting timing to draw that parallel.
Yeah.
It almost makes me wonder if there's going to be a complete divergence from the books and somehow Penelope and Cressida are going to find a way to mend fences. I don't know. But that's what it feels like it's building to. Or a bait and switch, and secretly she's going to have her breaking point moment where Lord Debling not only will not choose Penelope, but then will also not choose her, much like what happened in Daphne's season with the prince.
Sure.
And she's just gonna snap and go full mean-ass bitch.
I can see it go either way, whether she like finally gets to break away from her family and she's not as much of a bitch, which is reflective of the fact that, like she said at one point, the marriage mart turns these women and these girls against each other.
Mm-hmm.
Or she was actually a bitch the whole time and she's just hiding it with Eloise somehow.
Yeah.
Right.
I found myself kind of wanting her and Lord Debling to be together.
I still do, actually.
Yeah.
I think that's her happily ever after. She just wants to live that barefoot Contessa life. You know? Send your husband away for a while, and then when he comes back, you can be all lovey-dovey. I get it.
I think that would be actually really good for her. I think she could be independent and, you know, he can go do his thing. She has her own thoughts and opinions and I think she'll be able to find herself, really, because she's spent so much of her time being the person her mother and father tell her to be. I think if she marries him and he goes away, she will have the opportunity to find out who she really is as a person.
Yeah, Cressida doesn't seem like somebody that, it very clearly doesn't really care about love in the sense that she knows that's not the goal at the moment.
Mm-hmm.
But also, she seems like somebody who, like you said, really just wants to find a level of independence. And if she kind of fell into a lovey-dovey relationship, that would be fine. But I think it would kind of undermine the character they've created so far.
Well, and I think that her perspective of marriage is not love match oriented at all.
Right.
Yeah.
And so someone like Lord Debling seems like a dream. I did look it up after the show. After I got done with episode 4, that's not the name of the person she marries in the books. That said, Marina also does not marry Sir Philip in the books. So I don't know that how strictly they're adhering to that for secondary characters. Who knows?
Yeah.
I kind of want them to be together. I do
too. They're two they would look nice together, and I feel like they also meet each other's goals.
Yes.
Well, and he said when Penelope asked him, like, do you think love could be something that would be in your future eventually? And he was like, that's not where my head's at.
Mm-hmm.
And I think if Cressida's in the same boat, like, put the people together that are just like, we're going to make each other happy, but our main goal is to do our own thing.
Yeah, and to do the duties that we have to do.
Right.
And with somebody that we trust.
Yeah.
We don't hate each other.
Right.
We could be cool.
Yeah, we could have loyalty and companionship.
The other thing is Lord Debling, as much as I was like, oh, he's super cute, and I like that he's like making Colin jealous, he is not the right fit for Penelope.
No.
Yeah. I was kind of nervous at first when he showed up and they had like some of their banter back and forth. I was like, how are you going to convince me that guy is not the guy? And I think they did it in a really smart way where they didn't take away from him or like make him a bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
They just made him not right for her.
They made him a realistic person. And I actually kind of really liked how they ended. Necessarily want them to end because I was like, ooh. Oh, you fun.
Mm-hmm.
You fun. You can be a safe place for Penelope.
One issue I have with Penelope's choices that she's making, a lot of them I understand, but from the standpoint of I want to keep writing Whistledown.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I want my freedom and independence from my family. Lord Debling checks all the boxes. And then on top of that is smoking hot and will be gone a lot.
Yeah. like 3 years.
Yeah. Obviously, I like I said, I think that he is not right for Penelope, but he can come over here.
See, I thought it was really, I think I understood her thinking when she was talking to her mom and kind of being like, but this isn't a love match. This isn't love. And she's read all these books about it and she dreams about it. This is what she wants. And in my head, I'm like, yeah, but he comes back after those 3 years. That's a perfect book moment when he comes like through the doors and you're fucking everywhere.
I do love that he realizes he didn't know that the Bridgertons lived across the street.
And even though Cressida was the one that fucked it up, she didn't intend to.
Yeah.
She was just talking.
She didn't know that would be something that would cause any issue.
Yeah, that was a completely innocent bit of conversation that she's just like, oh, what?
And I thought that was a really good change in Cressida because I think in a different season, she would have really undermined Penelope in that moment.
Mm-hmm.
But all she did during that little dance was answer his questions of like, aren't those two friends? And she's like, yeah, the best of friends. They've been friends ever since the Featheringtons moved in across the street.
Mm-hmm.
Like she didn't undermine Penelope at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's just like, oh yeah, they're good friends.
She wasn't not sassy about it. She's still Cressida, but
yeah,
but she wasn't trying to be a bitch about it. She was just making conversation. It was, yeah, they're good friends.
I'm rooting for her to have that growth arc.
I know.
I really am, because that's far more interesting to me than her doubling down and becoming the worst person.
The other people we haven't talked about, though we've talked about Violet Bridgerton, but we haven't talked about her and Lord Anderson, who is Lady Danbury's brother. But that's because not enough has happened yet. Mm-hmm. So we're going to talk about it when we get to part 2, which we will be doing when that comes out.
Once there is a part 2, currently there is not.
At the time of recording.
Yeah. First of all, he's hot.
He is hot.
He is hot. Like he came on screen and I was like, how, sir?
Right?
You can't make him hotter than all of the other people's.
And I don't know. Maybe he's just one of those people that can rock a salt and pepper look. I can't tell what age he's supposed to be. Obviously, he's supposed to be roughly around Lady Danbury's age.
So 50s, 60s.
Yeah. Hot as shit.
Yeah.
Did not have any right to be walking into that party looking that good.
No.
And I was sort of like, shut up, Colin, shut up.
Okay.
I don't have time for you.
Sir, nobody wants to hear you. Yeah. Shut your face.
If you make one more swarmy comment, I'm punching you in the throat. I hated the first 3 episodes of Colin. Well, 2 episodes. First 2 episodes, I was like, Colin, shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. I hate you.
I didn't hate it, but that's just because I know it was going to change. It was a facade.
Yeah.
It was not the real him.
But it was still miserable to watch.
I really loved they were, making out in the garden and everything, and there's mist swirling around, and I was like, oh, so she's dreaming. And then all of a sudden, Colin woke up, and I was like, oh!
I was like, ooh! Boy, you're in love.
They caught me. I loved that because I was like, oh, she's dreaming. That's, she's dreaming about the kiss and everything. I was like, atta girl, Penelope, you get it in your dreams, girl. And then all of a sudden he woke up and I was like, oh, sir.
I kind of knew it was going to be Colin just because I know that Penelope falls first, but then she puts that aside and then Colin falls. And after that kiss, I was like, yes, it is now time for Colin to fall in love.
Well, and I was internally going, it was one of those things where I was surprised when he woke up, but at the same time I was like, Penelope, you don't know about a lot of things this way. You're going real hard in your dream for someone who knows nothing.
Look, sometimes you just know it's smashing bodies and you figure it out.
Apparently her sisters don't, or at least her sister doesn't.
Oh my God.
Was one of my favorite plot points. I won't lie. I laughed so hard.
I did too.
Especially because Prudence, her husband's hot, and she's just like, I don't like it. I don't like him. I don't want anything to do with it. Stop touching me.
Prudence is the not dumb one, right?
Yeah, Prudence is the old,
very tall one,
smarter one, I think.
Yeah, her husband's hot, but he's also dumb and kind of vapid.
Yeah.
Yep.
And maybe I'm just picking up the wrong vibe, but I was picking up at the very least bi.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what's happening with the two of them, but I do think it's really funny that she's just like, oh, do you have to? Does he have to touch me?
My hair.
I love that when because I wasn't expecting us to get their sex scenes. And then we did, and I was like, oh, okay. And then he's just trying to stroke her cheek, and she slaps him away, and she's like, no. What do you think this is? I'm like, I respect it though.
At least Philippa, once she figures it out, is it down because she really likes Mr. Finch.
Yes. Well, so again, this is a moment where I'm really glad they diverged from the books, because in the books she gets married to fucking what's his face, the squirmy little shit in the first book.
Oh no.
Oh shit, what is his fucking name?
I don't know, but I'm glad he's gone.
Yes.
Oh,
which I guess is a great nod to the actor. He did a really good job making me hate him.
Yes.
Yep.
So much. And so I'm really glad that they gave her a Mr. Finch, and he's cute and he's nice and he's pro Penelope. He's her biggest fan. He's like, look at her.
That was my heart fluttered for him when they were like, is everybody staring at us? He's like, I don't know, what, you are beautiful, talking to his wife. And then they turn and look up, and here's Penelope coming down in the dress, and the smile on his face was so genuine.
Yes,
and
he's beaming with pride.
He's so proud of her. He goes, not staring at us, and I was just like,
aww,
I love you, Mr. Finch.
Yeah, he seems to be like, I could be a big brother to her. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I genuinely think that probably Philippa would not be as much of an asshole if it weren't for the fact that Prudence eggs it on.
Yeah.
She really isn't, for the most part, most of the time, mean to Penelope.
True.
Philippa, yeah, she mostly just says whatever. Prudence.
I like the way that Penelope describes it. She's the dumbest person and the worst person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Philippa's so dumb. She didn't even know how sex works, which, to be fair,
none of them do.
Clearly neither Mr. Finch didn't either.
That was the most confusing part.
Well, apparently he just a kiss and he's excited. So
and it's enough.
Prematurely ejaculating.
Yeah.
Then we kiss and he makes a noise and he has to go change his.
What, ma'am? Mm-mm.
I love the conversations with their mother about this situation, because she's like, and what about you? This tea is quite bitter. Forget about the tea.
Right? I do. There's a part of me that just genuinely does love Mrs. Featherington. I find her to be one of the most entertaining characters in the whole show.
Yes.
I also, so there's, and I said this about the first season of Bridgerton. There are moments where I'm like, okay, here's the thing. With a modern lens, is she a complete and utter cunt? Yes, absolutely. Given not a modern lens, given the lens of women in that time period, she's not trying to be a bitch. She's trying to show them reality.
Well, when she is talking about Lord Debling and Penelope's like, I don't know, blah, 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 love match. And she's like, listen. listen, you can't hold out for that. You can't hold out for what you read in your books. That's not real life.
Right.
You need security.
Like, I legitimately don't think she's trying to be cruel. It's realistic here, hun. You've got to take care. It's the same thing with when she took Marina to the streets to show her reality of what she'd done to herself and everything. Like, she's not trying to be a bitch. She's trying to show you are not safe in this situation.
Right.
You are going to end up starving with your kid on the streets.
Right.
If we don't do something.
Yeah.
The big comment that I think a lot of people are going to react to really negatively, I took completely different. She makes a comment that, you know, she'll always have Penelope there to take care of her, right? And on one hand, she's saying, you know, I'm not thinking about you ever, like, meeting your match or anything like that. But I think on another level, she's telling her it's okay, right? I'll always be here for you.
Yeah.
You'll always be with me. You don't need to be afraid. You don't need to be worried. And also, you know, it's okay if you don't find somebody.
Well, she says that again in another scene where she is talking to Penelope and she's like, unmarried life doesn't have to be bad.
Right.
Yeah, I don't see a lot of what Portia does as the villain. She's probably should say it in a better way sometimes, but a lot of times she's just like trying to get her girls, who all seem to not really understand the situation they're in, to get it together.
Well, and the thing with Penelope is it makes sense with her pushing her older two girls out into the world and onto the marriage mart and pushing for that to happen, because at least one of them has to get married to someone who can support all of them. She knows that. And there's no way, I think part of the reason she continues to push Prudence is she's like, there's no way I can live with this woman. I think that's
also that
genuinely true. She's just like, I can't. But with Penelope, I think that she's observed her daughter wallflowering in spite of her best efforts. Now, does some of her effort go astray? Sure, but she really does push Penelope in the first season especially to, like, put herself out there. She tells her essentially not to wait for Colin Bridgerton and tells her he's not your friend.
Yeah.
Not in this, right? And so I think when she's telling her, you're off the hook, it's okay, I'm not going to push for you to get a marriage, she's like, I've seen that this is not okay for you, this is not fun for you, and we're okay, we're taken care of. Your older sisters are married off. We have this quote unquote inheritance.
Yeah.
We're okay. You don't have to live like that. But maybe I'm just have a more generous take on her. But
I have that same take on her though too.
I do too. I think people get stuck with the modern lens, because that's kind of how I have to remind myself, because when she was like, I'm just so comforted that you'll always be around, that was my first knee-jerk reaction was, you fucking bitch. And then it was like, wait though, like, I think she's kind of telling her that everything's gonna be okay.
Well, and also that you feel alone, but you don't have to. I'm here with you.
Right. Well, and I think that we've all witnessed or participated in this phenomenon at various times in our lives, where two people are communicating the same thing but saying it differently, and so interpreting it differently. And I think that's one of those examples where, from Portia's perspective, what she is saying is, I've got you, you've got me, we're gonna be protected. What Penelope and most of the audience is hearing is that nobody wants you, so don't worry about it, you're gonna take care of me for the rest of your life. And that's yes, but also no.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, to be fair, I think if Penelope would have married Lord Debling and then either Prudence or Philippa had their kid and took over the Featherington house, I wouldn't be surprised if Portia was like, all right, bitch, this is your house now. I'm going to go live with my daughter who has this giant estate over here.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think there, to a certain extent, the interpretation of her surprise that Lord Debling has come along is, oh, well, she doesn't think that anybody would want Penelope. And it's like, nobody has.
Well, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and it doesn't make it less shitty, but I think there's this, I don't know how to even phrase it exactly, but there's this, I'm going to use maybe kind of the incorrect term, but there's almost this toxic positivity layer that people put on things like that, where they're like, oh no, you just got to wait, the right guy's just around the corner or whatever. Yeah. And personally find that more insulting.
Yeah.
No, that is actually a thing. I don't know if toxic positivity is close to it or it is the right thing, where if you're constantly like rejecting someone's feelings about something that's very realistic, whether that's you feel like a person feels like they're inadequate or they feel like there's not somebody for them, and you're constantly saying things like, no, you can do it, I believe in you. That is actually worse than saying, I understand how you feel, and let's actually like come at it from that perspective.
Right.
Yeah, it's much worse to be like, oh, it's fine, you'll be great, blah, 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 than just be like, okay, well, let's talk about it.
Portia, while abrupt and harsh, she, to me, is more palatable sometimes than Lady Bridgerton, who wants to put a positive spin on everything.
Well, and Lady Bridgerton is trying to get, these love matches for all of her children, which makes sense. That is the most ideal outcome, and that's what she had. And then finally, Daphne gets it, though technically they got married and then fell in love, or they were kind of in, it was a whole mess.
Right.
And then Antony gets it. So when Francesca comes around and she is like trying to be realistic, Violet doesn't know what to do with it.
Yeah. Violet's very confused by Francesca, I feel like. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that Francesca is very quiet, unlike the rest of her children. Like, she's the middle child in a house full of very loud people.
And, she's been gone a lot of the time. And I don't, like, Violet makes a comment of, oh, you just got back and you're already looking to get rid of us. And she's like, no, I just want some peace and quiet. That's all. And she's not going to get it in that house.
No. Well, and she points out that she's like, well, I'm sorry, I feel like this is going to be very overwhelming for you. And she's like, she points out that she's not at home in their house. She feels welcomed. She feels part of it and everything. She's not uncomfortable in their home, but it is not what she wants for her home, essentially. And that's kind of where I got, where she's like, if I'm at home in our house, I can be at home in anywhere and everything. And it's like, well, I appreciate the fact that she, she's not saying that she's ever been uncomfortable in the home that she has and everything. It's just not really what she's looking for.
I don't think Violet understands why her daughter would not be interested in a love match. I don't think I can even grasp it, to be fully honest.
Love matches are terrifying.
Well, and that makes, in some ways, it feel like this daunting, impossible task for her to have a husband at the end of the season, because she's got to meet him and fall in love in 3 months? That's insane.
I did like when Violet was like, she was talking, Lady Danbury is telling her basically that the queen will probably introduce her to someone and everything, and she's like, cool, I'll marry that guy. And Violet was like, because it's easier. And I'm like, oh, bitch, yeah, that is what she's thinking, but she's also being realistic. But I don't like him. The guy that the queen brings in, I'm like,
I don't like him for Francesca, but I think he's otherwise likable.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with him, but he's definitely not for Francesca.
Yeah.
He could be fun with Eloise, but...
Oh, she'd hate him.
Oh, yeah, I know she would, but I think their fights would be fun to watch.
Can you imagine someone going up to Eloise and saying, I want to have 8 children? She'd be like, okay.
No.
The second he said that, I was like, oh, not for Francesca. She doesn't want she already has a house where she's been one of 7 kids. It's so loud.
Francesca wants 2 kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's it.
And even then, questionable.
12 years apart.
Right. Look, we got one out of the house. We can maybe do a second one now.
Yeah, I'll consider it.
Yeah.
Consider it.
Okay, so we started talking about them and then we went off on a different path. We need to get back to Penelope and Colin.
Yeah.
She read his smut.
Okay, yeah. I had thoughts about that scene. So the scene where Penelope comes over and they're going to do another one of their lessons, but oh no, Eloise and people came home early and go into the study. And Penelope starts reading his journal, which, dude, why are you leaving a journal out where you were talking about banging a bunch of chicks in Paris?
Wide open.
With all of the family that you have, those Snoopy bitches, have you seen your siblings?
Right? You're gonna look me in the eye and tell me Hyacinth isn't gonna get all up in that bitch?
Right.
No
yeah.
way. No way.
And then he gets mad at Penelope, which, I get, hey, don't read my journal, but also it's kind of like, well, you left it out.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
I did have a bit of a problem with this, with when he knocked over the lamp and then he started picking up the glass and immediately cut his hand.
Every single time that happens in a movie or a show, I'm like, bitch, you guys is I have never cut myself picking up glass off the floor.
I have.
I have, but it's usually when you're trying to pick it up too fast that you go that you slice yourself. It's not, I'm delicately picking up pieces.
That was my problem with it, was the way that he was picking it up did not lead to the injury he had.
Right.
Yeah, that looked like he just like straight stabbed himself in the center of the palm. I'm like, bitch, what were you doing with that glass?
Yeah. It did also, just because we're talking about like action scenes, the balloon scene then, that's the one scene that Pappy watched today, of all of it. And when Penelope is laying on the ground and the balloon is coming at her, Pappy was just yelling at the TV, move, woman.
All I could think was the Austin Powers scene where he's like got the like steamroller. And
Yes.
he's like, get out of the way. And he's taking the slowest amount of time to get there. Move! Get out of the way! And then he runs over him because he like didn't move. That's what it felt like to me. I was like, this is ridiculous.
I did like how Lord Debling jumped in between, though. I was like, that was very spry, sir.
And also, not going to do a whole lot.
Yeah, I know.
No. He was just like, what if I just put myself over you? And it's like, or you could help her up to get out.
Right.
Right? That's kind of what I was thinking too. I was like, what are you going to do? Put your feet out? I mean, I don't suppose that would really... That was my biggest thing. I'm like, so push it. It's a hot air balloon.
Yeah, but they're not used to what hot air balloons be doing.
I mean, I'm not saying that it wasn't heavy and stuff, you know, but it was just like...
The slide he did was hot, though.
The slide he did was hot. I was like, oh,
I was like, God,
sir.
Well, and I will say this in Penelope's defense. As a fellow clumsy bitch, sometimes it just takes a minimum amount of panic and you're on the floor.
Well, that's what I told Pap. I was like, you have to understand, back in this time, these bitches were too prissy and prim and proper and don't usually get in situations where they have to dodge and roll.
Also, they've never really seen a hot air balloon.
Yeah, but I mean, I've only seen hot air balloons from a distance. I've never been in one. But if one was coming at me, my reaction wouldn't be, oh God, and lay there and watch it like crush me.
Yeah, true.
Be to get out of the way.
Oh my God, them getting like all up in all the guys, well, mostly Colin's business about your heroes, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, they held a rope. It wasn't even going that far.
Well, Benedict said something about it later too, like... Had I known, all I had to do was tug on a rope to get your attention.
Right?
Which was also a sexual innuendo.
Yes. And yes, you can.
And this also.
Mm-hmm. And then, well, and that is where Benedict meets his lady of the season, who I don't know what her story really is yet. Other than she's a sassy lady who doesn't have to deal with a husband anymore.
Yeah, and apparently is very handsy during dancing.
Mm-hmm.
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 But... back to Colin and Penelope.
Fine.
God damn it.
One thing I want to talk about when it comes to Colin and Penelope, because we get a shockingly small amount of things with them. I really love at the beginning when Colin comes back into town and Penelope's still wearing her old clothes and is honestly being a bit of a creeper, if we're being so honest.
Yeah. I mean,
but,
yeah.
You know, every girl's had that crush.
She's excited to see him, but also doesn't want to go over there because she's afraid Eloise is going to shank her.
And also not that excited to see him because the last time they were in proximity to each other, he was a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
Yep.
Really liked that was not necessarily the catalyst for her to make this big overhaul change in her life. Like she just was looking around and I need to get married. I need to quit daydreaming about it being this stupid boy next door who doesn't pay attention to me. It's time to level up. And I found that to be a relief.
Yeah.
Because I was genuinely afraid when I first read about the plot that they were going to do of Colin training her to be like attractive or whatever, that she was still going to be like pining over him and sad and honestly a little pathetic. So I liked that wasn't the case. And I also had to acknowledge what he said. Mm-hmm. I think more groveling was in order.
Yeah. We will find out later on if he makes up for that on his knees. He started to.
He really didn't grovel at all.
Well, this is what I'm afraid of the second half, is that now he's going to discover that Penelope is Lady Whistledown.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's going to go back to the power dynamic being that she is trying to keep him and trying to, remain in his good graces. And it's like, no, sir, no. You still are in trouble for a very long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You did not have to be an asshole like that. You could just shut the fuck up. Because here's the thing. It's easy to downplay it like he made a shitty comment when he thought he was just among his bros. But the thing is, making comments like that can ruin a girl's chances of ever getting married.
Well, and especially when Penelope was struggling and he knew she was struggling.
Mm-hmm. And this is supposedly one of your best friends in the world.
Mm-hmm.
You have known her your entire life. I can't say that I have ever wanted to say something even half as shitty about one of my excellent friends, even if I'm in a weird mood.
Well, see, here's the thing. I get the no, I'm not interested.
Yeah.
It's the way he said it.
Yeah.
It's the way he said it, like it was laughable that anyone would be interested in her.
And she's fucking cute, even in the weird clothes.
She is, like, especially second season, like, she kind of has a little, like, baby glow up.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Especially when they were, like, not trying to, like, give us all of her forehead and create a fake 5 head, right?
I do like, though, that her glow up had nothing to do with Colin. It had everything to do with, all right, this is bullshit, and I don't want to live with my mother anymore, and I don't want to live with fucking Prudence because she's an asshole. I don't really think she has much of a problem with Philippa. She's dumb, but like she's a sweet dumb.
I don't think she's sweet necessarily.
Nah, not sweet, but she isn't as much of an asshole.
I also like that Penelope has hated that style for 2 seasons. So when it was finally her glow up, it wasn't like, I need to change everything about me. It was, I need to stop doing what my mom wants me to do because it's not working. And so I'm going to do my own thing.
I also want to talk about the fact that at no point throughout any of this, through people looking at her and suddenly being like, wow, she's so pretty, to Colin suddenly paying attention to her, or Lord Debling finding her attractive, at no point was it like, well, she's lost weight. And that is a plot point in the book.
Well, we get that even in the second book when she's talking to Kate, I believe, actually. And she's saying like that she like lost her baby fat. And obviously that would have been a killer thing to do, like in a bad way, not killer in a good way, especially because Nicola, can't remember her last name, she's fucking gorgeous.
Oh, she's stunning.
Well, and somebody online recently like started this discourse talking about the fact that like we've kind of put her on a pedestal for being this plus size representation, and I was like, I kind of agree, you know, like she is still a tiny little petite human being, she just has curves, right, like and probably struggles with regular sizing just like the rest of us do, but like she's not you wouldn't call her big, you couldn't. She's teeny, right?
Well, to go on a little bit of a tangent, right? Like I'm just shy of 5'9", and and I've always known this, there's a massive difference between somebody who is 5 foot and a comparable like ratio and somebody who is my height and who's bigger like me. Like it is a completely different world.
Right. It was interesting that they made that comment, and then without any pomp and circumstance, we get finally some other plus size representation in the show. And she looks great.
Oh, stunning.
Right?
She walked in, I'm like, oh.
And they didn't like, I love that they didn't even make notice of it. It was just like, you know, this is another one of the young ladies this year.
Yeah.
And I was like, thank God. If they had pulled the like lost weight card, I don't know. I might have been done with this show.
I think it would have tanked. I think they would have really screwed up their audience, especially because right now, when you start looking at the way book talk is taking over, you can't piss those girls off.
No.
Sorry, not girls, people. There's all sorts of genders.
I would have been appalled for that to come from somebody like Shonda Rhimes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Because her work, if you watch it, like, yes, there are a lot of traditionally bodied people, right? But she does make a point to cast people who are plus size or are otherwise not necessarily the typical societal beauty standard, right?
Sure.
And like when we get to the carriage, that I definitely had this moment of like there was almost something like a little bit healing about it, and because the only other time I can think of a plus size character being desired in that way so clearly, so openly, is Miranda Bailey from Grey's Anatomy.
Oh yeah.
That's literally, I literally had to go down the lexicon of shows that I've watched and seen, and like never have I seen it be so clearly desirable.
Let's talk about that carriage, shall we?
Yeah.
I love the fact that he's on his knees for her the entire time.
Uh-huh.
So hot.
She's
Also-
like storming off when they get in the carriage, though, and he stops it.
Well, okay, because he fucks up, right?
Yeah.
Instead of being an adult and having a healthy, normal conversation with her, especially when he is prompted and hinted at that, like, hey, Penelope's expecting a marriage proposal tonight. Wink, wink, my guy. And he's like, I'm not going. And so, like, does this whole dramatic entrance while she's dancing with Lord Debling, which is just like...
And it was a cute dance.
It was cute.
Well, and if you consider the time, what Colin did is scandalous.
Oh, so
Hella
scandalous.
inappropriate. And then,
Getting in that carriage is also hella inappropriate.
everything he does from the moment he gets to the party is wrong.
Well, I will say, though, him getting in the carriage, is it Ray or Rhea, Penelope's maid? She lets Colin and Penelope spend way too much time alone together throughout this entire
hell yeah, she
thing.
does.
She ships them.
Oh, yeah.
That is for sure. You know?
I have to say, Luke Newton, the actor that plays Colin,
Mm-hmm.
the faces he gives,
Whew.
the faces that man gives, I was done for.
When I tell you the gasps, I was gasping.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. It was like 2 a.m. when I watched it the first time.
Yeah, me too. Because I watched it as soon as you guys left here last week. And I was like, I'm not a quitter. I'm not a fucking quitter. And the screams that my neighbors were hearing was vengeance for them being so fucking loud.
Yeah. They it was a steamy scene.
Maybe let's take it beat by beat, because there's not a single person who watched that has not gone back and watched those like last 10 minutes.
I did it like twice today. I was like,
oh my
rewind.
God. Oh my God. So like he gets in the carriage, she's pissed at him, right? And
he ruined everything. What a fucker.
yes. And one of the things I really liked is that we do get this moment with Violet where she like prompts him. She's like, you just have to be brave enough to try, right?
Yeah.
And Penelope is of course protecting herself and is like, don't say these things if you don't mean them. Like, yes, you just made an ass of yourself and of me in front of everybody, but like, don't sit here and pretend that you like me. It will just hurt more, right?
Well, especially when she's seeing Colin going around flirting with literally everyone.
Yes.
She's like, I'm not playing your fucking game. We're not doing that.
Yeah.
Yes. And aggressively.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Again, I hated charming Colin. Hated it.
Yeah, I wanted to throw things at him.
But instead, he drops that whole facade, which is like, thank God, right? But
Yeah.
like, is like truly appealing to her on the standpoint of, I know that this might come as a surprise, ma'am, but also I have to speak my truth.
Yeah.
But also, you my best friend.
Yes, and I would like you to be my best friend.
Oh, yeah.
And so I like that Penelope made him work for it a little bit. Could have made him work for it more. Could have begged more, but I've already said that. But
I think I would have given in, considering the context, the
Mhm.
carriage,
mm-hmm,
the fact that you just lost your only marriage prospect.
mm-hmm,
I could give in.
Yep.
mm-hmm.
I do love, though, when she's like, fine, get in, and then she yells out to them, take us to Bridgerton House. I'm like,
Where else would she take him?
I know a couple places I could take him.
Well,
No, you
she's
don't.
making it
You don't
clear
know
to
London.
them that he is not coming back to the Featherington home. So
Well,
we'll
yeah.
take him to Bridgerton House first.
Mm-hmm.
He is not my guest, right?
Yeah.
I am mad at him.
Right. But the other thing about when she finally does surrender, it's very much it's a very short bit, but we get about 3 seconds of her having all the power in the situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, yes.
You mean when she's like, but we're friends,
Mhm.
and he just goes, okay,
Deflates.
I understand. I
Right.
get it. But I would like us to be more than friends.
Right. The only problem I had with that is that I appreciate that this whole thing is anachronistic and there's going to be modernisms that come through, but that whole thing felt like a conversation out of a contemporary romance, and I didn't really like that part of it when everything else wasn't as much that way.
I guess I didn't get that, but it was definitely way more intimate than any of the conversations they have had.
Well, in that context of that time, more than friends doesn't even make sense.
Sure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like, you know, think of it, Jane Eyre, right? Her and Rochester are friends, but they would never have said, I want to be more than friends. It's we are friends or we're not friends.
Mm-hmm.
We're either friendly, acquaintancy kind of people, or I want you to be my wife. And so it felt weird having this like high school conversation of like, I want you to be more than my friend.
I was having this.
I don't know what part about that came across as high school.
Yeah, no,
I can interpret you saying modern, but
after was not. But like just the I want to be more than friends conversation.
I was having these back and forth panic moments during the carriage scene where I'm like, huh? And then at the same time, I'm like, she's ruined. They're gonna ruin her. And then, huh? And then she's like, I was panicking for her because people have been ruined by much less than riding in a carriage alone with an eligible bachelor.
Sometimes all it takes is a bee sting.
Yep.
Well, I mean, to Penelope's like mindset though, like she kind of just lost everything and she has had no other option. Yep. So without Lord Debling, she's back to being a spinster. So fuck it. Why not at least experience something? My heart fluttered in my chest when he got out and he's like, "Are you coming, Penelope? Come be my wife." And I was like, that felt like old Colin to me. Because Colin is such a fucking romantic. And for him to be like, Penelope Featherington, are you going to marry me? That made sense with the guy who just like throughout the entire last 2 episodes is basically pining not only for Penelope, but for love. It's like he came back to the Ton, tried to do this rakish thing that his older brother did last however many years, and immediately hated it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I will say, I do like Colin's coat. I know that's completely random, but I really liked his coat.
I thought they did a really good job of taking the boyish Colin, like physically, and turning him into this Colin. Because honestly, he doesn't even look the same. I know there are some rumors that maybe he got like lip filler or something. And if he did, fuck it, whatever. Do what you want to do. I think mostly what happened is probably just character choices and then makeup and clothing choices.
One thing I fundamentally disagree with his glow up is whatever combination of collar and hair choice that they're making is making his shoulders look very narrow and his head look very big.
His head did look big.
Yes.
It was weird. And I was like, okay, but when you look at pictures of him in real life, that is not what he looks like. So what are you doing to, like, how many people do you know that are like, I like a man with winnowy shoulders? What? Like, why would you not broaden that out rather than make it look like, I don't know. That I disagreed with that aspect of his glow up fundamentally.
Yeah.
Like, I'm excited for him to not wear coats and things like that, just so that he can have a normal proportion to his shoulders. But I'm gonna say it. I'm not gonna avoid it any longer. Let's talk about them getting down in the carriage.
I was gonna say we didn't finish the carriage conversation.
No, we did not. And I have a lot of feelings.
Oh, do you?
Again, like you said, great that he was on his knees the whole time. That was very nice.
Yeah.
But also, again.
It only works if you use your words, Wiggs.
Oh, well. I mean, okay. So, first of all, the attention paid to the bosoms was appreciated.
It was appreciated.
And I think that for all the media that there is out there that's like big-breasted women is like where it's at, they're not represented in media. Not like that. Yeah. They're not appreciated. You don't have a man going in for a handful and realizing he's going to need more than 2 hands. Okay? And I'm just saying, as someone on the chestier side, it was appreciated. I felt noticed.
Yeah. I like that, like, I get it's acting, but it did not look like those 2 people were acting.
They're good actors.
Right?
Yeah, they are.
Right?
Mm.
Oh my gosh. I also appreciated that. So in the book, they go farther.
Sure.
I'm gonna put it that way.
Mm.
And I honestly really liked the like clothes fully on, like hand going up the skirt kind of thing, better, because it felt more realistic. Like in a lot of bodice rippers, they're like getting all the way down, and I'm like, it takes so much time for you to put those clothes back on, though.
Right.
How are you doing that? And it felt more impulsive and realistic that way.
Mm-hmm. Also, it's not necessary to take it all off.
No.
Right?
No, especially with the undergarments they have back then. Just doop, doop, doop. Get around them.
Y'all can't see the hand movement she just did, but it was fabulous.
Yeah. And to get around them, he does.
He does.
He does indeed get around them.
Oh, her reaction, I was like, I can't breathe.
Yeah.
I literally, like, I was watching it in my bed, and I literally was like,
mm-hmm. 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 And I didn't notice it until the second time I watched it, but she fully has a hickey right in between her tatas.
Oh, does she?
Yeah, and I'm
damn.
Good for you.
Yeah. I was not expecting him to basically propose right away. It does feel, again, on character for him, but...
Yes. You know, if I was Penelope, there would be a part of me with this TV show version of Colin that would maybe be a little hesitant when he proposes, because it took him all of 5 seconds to propose to Mariana.
Yeah.
You know, like, how real and serious is this? Like, yeah, he's spoiled her, but, like, that's what men do if they get the chance. And
Yeah.
she trusted him. Like, all those kind of, like, anxieties would be going through my head. And so I hope that they explore that.
Yeah.
And don't just, like, brush it off of, like, she's just fully trusting in Colin. Because she's too smart for that.
Yeah. That's the other thing is I think they need to explore the fact that Penelope is not as innocent to the world as people think she is.
Mm-hmm.
She is a very intelligent woman.
Well, I think that there's a part of her that knows that, yes, her marriage prospects have blown up, but she will always have Whistle down as long as nobody figures out who she is.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Right.
at least this point of the story, like, she still has some independence, and Colin has the possibility of upending that in its entirety. I also think, you know, kind of getting back to her giving him the nod, the go ahead to do what he's got to do, to get up in those hot cross buns, you know. It reminded me of when Kate and Anthony finally came together in season 2 of this, just, you know, as long as we trust each other to shut the fuck up about this, it's all good.
Yep.
Well, I would imagine because of the way this set of 4 episodes ended so dramatically with the marriage proposal, that in classic TV cliffhanger way, they're going to step it back a little bit somehow.
So I think that kind of leads me into how I think we should end this episode rather than with ratings. I think we should end with our predictions for the next 4 episodes.
I like that.
Oh, I do too.
I like that.
One of my possible predictions for the next 4 episodes is, I think it's odd that they brought in this, like, baby race, right? For the Featherington Manor and all of that. And it kind of makes me wonder if the Lady Bridgerton, or excuse me, Lady Whistletown thing is not going to be the biggest obstacle that Colin and Penelope find themselves in. That maybe they continue to go even further without being married, and oopsie doodle, and she's still got weeks before she can get married or something. Like it feels they have to diverge from the book in some ways because they haven't set it up to be able to flow the way the book did.
Sure.
Mm-hmm.
And so I could see that being a way that they have a situation.
I think that Eloise is either going to break them up or like try to pull them apart.
I think that Eloise is going to try to force Penelope's hand.
Sure.
On telling Colin who she is and what she's done. And I think that after that, she's going to justify it in the way that Eloise does with everything, which is that she's got the moral high ground in her eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And afterwards, when she sees how it negatively affects both Penelope and Colin, I think she's going to have sort of an aha moment, and that's when she's going to start her redemption arc back into Penelope's life. Because I just don't see how you can continue the series with them hating each other.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they have to get back together.
I think it's kind of going to be a combination of your two. I think Eloise is going to force Penelope's hand. I think by the time that Penelope is ready to tell him, they will have done the naughty times. And she may win the baby race as far as producing a male heir. So maybe then Colin will become the new Lord Featherington.
Which is definitely not in the book.
Nope.
No, but would be interesting, and then they would live across the street.
It's true. I also think one set of characters that we didn't talk about at all is the Mondrich family.
We did not.
We didn't. And that's probably a shame because they're great. I like
do
them.
Really like them. I think that they're going to, well, just based on how they've used them throughout the show, because they're not book characters, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Is they're sort of at times a reflection and at times a contrast to all the things that are going on in the characters' lives. And I think that there is going to be some kind of reckoning within that. Like, I think that there's going to be something is going to go wrong with Will trying to maintain this bar and trying to be part of the aristocracy or whatever the hell they're called, society. And I think that I don't know how the two puzzle pieces fit together yet, but I think that those two things are going to come to a head with Whistledown. I like whether there's a scandal that she chooses not to explore, or whether it's because they're not really following society's rules that they do something that scandalizes somebody else. I just think that they wouldn't give us so much attention to them.
Yeah.
If there wasn't something about that was going to play a huge part. And I also think that they're really important characters because they give us the little nuggets that form the world. Like in the first season, yes, they're Simon Bassett's friends, but they're also showcasing that just because some people of color were elevated to aristocracy does not mean that everybody was, and does not mean that things are better and easier for everybody.
Well, it also showed, going back to that first season, a level of almost like callousness, even of people in the aristocracies, even if you are friends with them, doesn't mean that they're going to try to help you make your life better. Because Simon easily could have given them all the money they needed to start their bar and like do all this stuff.
Right. Like, what the fuck, Simon? Yeah. He's kind of an asshole. But it also shows up in, like, Will has a conversation with Benedict where he's like, how do you follow all of these rules? And he's like, you're married, so you don't have to. So he tells him that you're married, so you don't have to, but he doesn't really, like, explain which rules have to be adhered to. Just that some don't. And then it's only when somebody who honestly doesn't know him that well comes up to him at the bar and is like, what are you doing tending bar? You don't work now. That's over for you. And so there's even that level of it where Benedict and Colin and Anthony, they're sort of friends with Will as well, and they're not really helping him get welcomed into society. To be fair to Anthony, he's not there anymore. But you know, Colin and Benedict aren't doing what they should be doing if they really thought of him as an equal.
Right. True. Lady Danbury is the one who actually gives them the best advice of, listen, you can't keep doing this or else the queen is going to notice and it's not going to be okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And I love that that's coming from her post Queen Charlotte, because she's really saying, I've watched this fucking happen.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Don't push her.
Yep.
You are always, and we all are, at service to the queen.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Displeasing her is not going to do well for you.
Well, and the thing is, too, is he can own it all he likes.
Mhm.
He can't be the one running it.
Right.
Which then he brings up that they've lost so many accounts with different lords that he can't hire a bartender. And my brain immediately went to, you just inherited this entire estate and you can't afford to hire a bartender?
Right.
The problem is he did not inherit it.
His son did.
His son did.
Well, I understand that, but they still have access to some money.
I'm a little surprised, honestly, that that they didn't pull a sneaky and age up their kids a little bit more, because
Mhm.
I was like, oh, are they going to now be showing up when Hyacinth and Gregory are out? And I don't think
No,
that's the
they're
case.
too
They're
young.
too young, right?
And they're all boys too, so girls debut way younger than like a boy would be
Right.
out in
Yeah.
society.
Right. But yeah, no, I think there's definitely something big coming there. Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe it's just more background commentary. But if that's the case,
They spent a lot of time on it for background commentary.
right?
Yeah.
Some shit's gonna hit the fan.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And they've given Colin a little bit of advice
Mm-hmm.
about like his relationships and stuff, but they usually do a lot more to kind of ground the main characters, and they haven't done it yet. So yeah, to your point, there's got to be something. Cressida, I know we've kind of talked about it. I am very fearful that they'll do another heel turn, to use a wrestling term, and make her bad again. But God, what I want, this isn't a prediction, this is just a hope. I just want her to be happy and then move away from her family and then be like, not like a good person, but just like a better person.
Mm-hmm.
Because so far in this season, we are showing she wants to be a better person.
Right. She even acknowledges she's like that she was not the best version of herself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that, I mean, she has the commentary of society pressures us to work against each other, and also proves to be smarter than she lets on.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think Francesca will end up engaged to Lord Kilmartin,
Mm-hmm.
but that's also because I know she has to.
I think
At
it's
some
going
point.
to be a tipping point for the queen, though.
Oh, sure.
Oh, yeah.
Because this is now like the
second Bridgerton girl to say, fuck your match. But also, every single one of her matches has failed.
yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that, I don't know. I feel like the queen is going to lash out in some major way.
Okay.
Don't know what that will be. But I do think, so this is a spoiler for the book. If you don't want to know that, cover your ears for about 10 seconds. Are you covering your ears? Is that what you do?
No.
Oh, okay. I was like, why would you just cover one? That's weird. I'm going to say all that again. In the books, Lady Danbury calls for Lady Whistledown to be unveiled, and she offers $1,000 or £1,000 prize to whoever can figure it out. And obviously they're showcasing a lot of people who could really use that prize. And my prediction is going to be that it's not going to be Lady Danbury, because we have not set up that connection between her and Penelope.
Mhm.
Sure.
And honestly, have not set up the premise that Lady Danbury gives a flying fart.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, she enjoys Lady Whistledown, but she doesn't care who it is, not really. But who does? The queen.
The queen.
Yeah.
And so I think that's how she's going to lash out. I think it's going to be her issuing the edict that, hey, if you can bring me Lady Whistledown, you get a big prize. And I think it's going to be more than £1,000, because she's the fucking queen.
Well, yeah.
£1,000 in that money was. I mean, don't get me wrong. I'd take £1,000 right now, but
Yeah, but I wouldn't out one of my friends for it.
nah.
But
If somebody said $1
For-
million, I would, but only because I'd be like, Wiggles, if we out you, we can split $1 million.
I'd be like, do it.
Yeah.
Do it. But the thing about Penelope, she doesn't have that many friends.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't. She's not connected to everybody the way the Bridgertons are. And, there's a lot of people who love to see the Featherington's downfall.
Yeah, the Featheringtons kind of are not necessarily the laughingstock of the Ton, but also kind of.
Yes. So that's what I think is going to happen that way. Also, I hope that means that we get more Brimsley like running around like being like, who did it? Who's Lady Whistledown? I'm really hoping, and I want him to wear his hat again. That's not a prediction. It's a desire. If you didn't pay attention to the hat, go back and watch it again just for the hat. It was a good hat.
I mean, I am going to have to go back and watch it again for the hat.
Yeah. Because it's Brimsley, our sweet boy.
Our sweet boy.
Any more predictions?
No, I think
Benedict's going to see Sophie.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I think maybe that's the catalyst for him to realize he shouldn't just be sleeping around with women of the Ton.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't know. It's a prediction. I don't know.
Oh, gosh. Well, if that's it. Well, folks, this has been our discussion of Bridgerton Season 3, Part 1. We'll discuss Season 2 right as it comes out, so in about a month, and we'll bring that to you. If you like this episode, please find us out there on the socials at Wrong Dust Jackets, or you can go to our website, wrongdustjackets.com. We have a bunch of episodes that we have listed coming out, and then we also have our blog, so you can check out additional reviews of things that don't make it onto the episode. And we'd appreciate it on whatever app you're listening on to please give us 5 stars. It helps us a whole hell of a lot in the algorithms and the like. So that's all I've got. Thanks, folks. Bye, y'all.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.